Hello everybody, we come to it at last, our final ups and downs of 2021. I have an awful lot to say in this episode, so I'll make it as quick as possible. Second of all, a massive thank you to Surfshark, who have partnered with us for this entire season of ups and downs. They have literally helped us make this season happen, and they are passing on savings to you. If you use the code WhatCulture when you're making your purchase, you get 83% and 4 free months all off your purchase. So I really want to say just how much I am grateful to Surfshark for this entire season. We are also massively grateful to every one of you who have supported this channel in 2021. Now, look, 2021 was a dumpster fire in many ways, but honestly, the support and growth that you have helped to give this channel, which now has over 170,000 subscribers, cannot be called that. You have massively made this year better than it had any right to be. So thank you so much for that. Now, to business. It is ups and downs time. We are going through Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 7, But to Connect. We will go through everything that we liked and give it an up, and everything that we didn't like and we'll give it a down. An awful lot to discuss in this episode, so let's get straight to it. This episode, I felt, is the closest we've got to a Next Generation episode in all of Discovery so far, coming after last week's one, which I thought was a return to that kind of slower storytelling. Half of the episode is spent in Federation HQ when all of the assembled members and non-members of the Federation discuss what to do about the DMA and about Species 10C. Absolutely love just the sheer amount of talking in this, because what has been one of the main complaints about Discovery so far has been, oh, it's always action, action, action. It's just the fired bullet and trying to follow along with it. So that is a massive part of this episode that I love. But my very first up for this episode goes to Michael Burnham. I found myself agreeing with Michael Burnham in nearly everything she said this week, because she's not simply taking the opposing side to Booker just for the sake of it. Quite frankly, she's absolutely right, and she is absolutely Starfleet in what she is saying. The argument comes down to, once they are able to identify the location of Species 10C, which of course I will get to as the episode goes on, what do they do? Do they make a show of force and attack using Tarka's plan from a couple of weeks ago, or do they initiate first contact? Now, you've got the representatives from Ni'Var who are straight away saying, it's gotta be first contact. Like, there's not even a question here, it's got to be first contact. But then you've got representatives from United Earth and Titan, and of course Booker from Quajon, and of course Tarka himself saying, go in with a show of force. Go in and attack and show them that we mean business. And while there is merit on both sides, first contact has to be the way to go. You have to at least attempt diplomacy. This is quintessential Star Trek. Burnham becomes the mouthpiece for that this week. And in fact, of course, Relic literally puts her right up in center for that. And she delivers an impassioned speech that, for me, basically defines what it is to be Federation. It's that we can't go in and let fear lead us. We must go in with hope. So calling back to the namesake from season 3, that hope is you, calling back to Starfleet overall. Michael Burnham, for me, up this week. Now, in a slightly paradoxical choice, my next up goes to Book. David Ajala has consistently delivered on the sheer emotional material he's been given for this season. This season has been addressing mental health front and center. And I have had my concerns about how it's been put front and center in previous episodes. There's been a lot of discussions online, for example, about Book sitting down after his mind meld. And I felt it was slightly going back on himself. But here we have the angriest, I think, that we've seen Book since the destruction of Quajon. And he's just arguing so much that we have to destroy this anomaly. We have to show 10C that we will not take this lying down. And as I said, there is absolute merit to this, but it's very clear as the episode goes along, that his own grief is blinding him, and Tarka is able to manipulate him. Make no mistake, that's what's going on here. The revelation of Tarka's motives. It's clear that he is using Book to achieve his own ends, which becomes even more clear as the episode goes on. Considering the wild back and forth that Book has had to deal with in this season, David Ajala has been absolutely smashing it out of the park. So once again, for me, Book is a massive up for this episode. This was one that took a bit of time to pay off. So here I am, I'm picking it up, and it's Zora's new state. The establishment of Zora as a new life form. Much of this storyline frustrated me this week, and there is going to be downs in this. However, the payoff at the end of the episode puts Zora's journey into the up camp for me. Now, I've consistently said I want Annabelle Wallis to just speak to me at all times. Her voice is just amazing, and she gets a lot to do this week. We open up with the revelation that she finds the location of Species 10C, but withholds that information because she wants to care for Discovery's crew. This goes on, and there becomes quite a lot of conversation about AI and, what is okay in terms of allowing her control over herself. Control being name dropped rather a lot from season 2. And it's a very interesting, if, as I say, incredibly frustrating story this week. Kovich, Saru, Culber, Stamets, Adira and Gray all basically center around this storyline. A massive down for me this week was the arguments that Adira and Gray put across on behalf of Zora. The theme of arguing for a new life form makes perfect sense, not only in the world of Star Trek, but in general. But I was taken out of the episode so many times listening to the arguments put across that we have no right, we can't do this, we can't do that. And I caught myself thinking, how many Terminator films is it going to take? How many? Yes, I'm not nitpicking, because they barge into a meeting between Kovich, Saru, Culber and Stamets on the nature of new life. They could very easily have derailed everything. They want to speak on behalf of Zora. Okay. All right, there's nothing wrong with that. Culber was already there to do that, but let's for argument's sake say they didn't know that. At any point, Kovich could have said, I have no reason to listen to you. Get out. High statements of, you simply can't, you simply can't, you simply can't. There wasn't an awful lot of backing up. For example, Stamets, who is getting an up from me this week, is, for the bulk of the episode, the naysayer as to Zora's new state of being. And I found myself identifying far more with Stamets than I did with Adira or Gray in terms of the arguments. Stamets reasons his way toward his final conclusion that Zora is a life form, in which he agrees with Kovich. Adira and Gray seemed to speak from a place of almost sound bites as opposed to reasoned argument. There was a couple of things thrown in. Gray's statement, for example, I myself am in a synth body, I am a new life form, therefore I understand Zora completely, therefore you cannot do these things. Okay, I am the first human host of a Trill symbiont to successfully take and, continue on as we are. Therefore, you cannot do this to Zora. And it's like, okay, great that it has worked out for both of you, but that doesn't change the fact that if Zora hiccups, she could blow everybody else into space. And that's where Stamets' argument comes from. And again, for the entire episode, I found myself completely agreeing with Stamets. Now, his reasoning in discussion with Zora brings me around. But I did catch myself going, absolutely extract Zora from Discovery. It's too big of a variable. I did find that the arguments that this episode put across for Zora's state as a new life form didn't exactly sway me overly. I just thought it was a really good scene at the end. So we're gonna have to see how that goes on when the second half of the season returns in the new year. Back then in Federation HQ, I do have a minor down, just enough to include, where was Admiral Vance? No problem whatsoever with Burnham being there. It makes perfect sense. Not only is Burnham the captain of the ship that's going to probably have to make everything happen, but also Burnham represents Ni'Var on the council, so that makes sense. But Vance, being the most senior member of staff in all of Starfleet, really should have been at this assembly. So, Ted Fair, please come back. We miss you. Once more, again, President Rillick gets an up from me. She shows again how deft she is at, manipulating, but also working all of the different parts of the assembly to where they need to be. She is able to say to Burnham, quite straightforward, I can't take a stance here because I have to be the moderator. However, I need you to be my voice, which is first contact. And it makes perfect sense. Rillick has consistently, throughout the first half of this season, shown herself to be a fantastic addition to Star Trek, a fantastic example of politics in Star Trek, and also a great orator. It was just wonderful once again to see her take charge without necessarily taking charge. My final down of the episode is Book buying in to Tarka's plan. Tarka has a plan that will destroy the DMA, fantastic, but his motives are revealed to be entirely selfish, hardly shocking, and he goes to Book with this and reveals this information to Book and Book alone. Book never thinks to bring this information to Michael or to anyone else, which moves Book from a sympathetic person who is acting out of grief, frankly, to a co-conspirator. And as the episode ends and Tarka arrives on Book's ship with the new spore drive, it's very hard for me to be on Book's side here. Again, easy argument to be made. Grief makes fools of us all. That is not my issue. My issue is that Tarka's plan is so obviously selfish and dangerous. And Book just kind of says, yeah, but I want rid of the DMA, so let's go Machiavellian on this. It frustrated me. It frustrated me to the point of putting it down in it. I'm excited to see where the next half of the season goes, and I'm sure there's going to be good storylines from this, but I would be remiss of me not to give this a down in this episode. Not to end on a downer, we are giving it up to the absolute meet cute that is Saru and Tarina. How lovely was that at the end? That was just lovely. I don't have much more to say about that. It was just lovely. It was nice. My friends, for the final time in 2021, would you join me in cetacean observations? I've run out of paper in this pad. It'll be a new pad next time. All right, plenty of eggs to get through this week. So, delegations at the Assembly. We have delegates from United Earth and Titan. We have delegates from Ni'Var. We have, through Tarka, delegates from Risa. We have a Lurian. We have a Trill. We have an Andorian. We have an Alshane, the moth butterfly people from the start of the season. We have what seems to be a visual call out to Daft Punk, which I thought was really cool. We have an Orion. We have a call out to a Tarkan Vole, which is a Delta Quadrant species, and from the episode Darkling, not to be confused with the Tarkanians, who were in earlier Trek. We have Denobulum bloodworms are called out. We have a nice clear shot of a 32nd century Cardassian, which I really, really liked. A reference to liquefied latinum. Back on Discovery, Zora identifies that she has 147 possible locations, 47 being the most common number in all of Star Trek. Back in Federation HQ, Tarka's plan revolves around using isolytic weapons to destroy the DMA. Isolytic weapons, of course, being made famous by Star Trek Insurrection. The Sonai used them, and they did irreparable damage to subspace. They were in fact banned by the Khitomer Accords. Riker says he must lodge a complaint. He obviously did, because almost 1,000 years later, President Rillick was able to say, hey, they were banned by the Khitomer Accords. We have an external Easter egg for this one. Book identifies himself as a Maladisi, which he says is a speaker for the dead on Quajon. That phrase for me straight away is a call out to Orson Scott Card's Enders series, and of course the second book is literally called Speaker for the Dead. There is a fantastic little nod to sci-fi in general when the revelation of Zora's subconscious is shown, and Stamets asks, "Can AIs dream? Do androids dream of electric sheep, anyone?" We go back over to Federation HQ, kind of getting seasick here. Finally we get our little Ferengi standing in there, and at the very end, that lovely conversation between Gray and Adira. Adira says, "Remember, Tilly's snow globe says all is possible." That is it from me for 2021. But again, my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you this year. Thank you so much for liking. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for engaging. And thank you for helping this channel to grow. It is amazing what you have helped us do this year. And I hope you will join us again in 2022 and bring your friends and family. Bring everyone. That's it for me this week, folks. If you reckon I've missed anything, please drop it into the comments below. Please don't forget that you can catch us over on Twitter at Trek Culture. You can catch myself at Sean Ferrick and all the usuals as well. You look after yourself, you have a very happy new year, and you live long and prosper. Thanks very much.